So I'm not a politician. This is not anything I ever thought I was going to do. I still don't want to be a politician. But as I look and see how our area is getting represented, the decisions that are being made down in Austin, our government just keeps growing and I feel forgotten. And as I've talked to the other people in this area, they feel forgotten as well. We don't feel like we're on the mind of our current representative. They keep spending so much money rather than figuring out a way to get it back in our pockets. And so decided that I would run. I've got some background in volunteering to help write legislation, and I know how things work down at the Capitol. I have relationships down there, so I think I'm the right person to step up and let's head in a new direction.
Absolutely. So I want to address that lawsuit that was in our newsroom late last week that you filed against your opponent, Jay Dean, where you're accusing him now of defamation after he accused you of wanting to eliminate the Texas teacher retirement system. You claim that those comments in the lawsuit has negatively impacted your campaign. Can you set the record straight on the Texas teacher retirement system, your past comments, what your intentions are with that, and just kind of your decision to file this lawsuit only days before the March primary?
Right. So I have never spoken about the teacher retirement system ever. Never made a comment about it, never posted on Facebook, never spoken about it in a meeting. It hasn't been brought up. And so for Jay Dean to say that I want to get rid of the teacher retirement fund, basically he is weaponizing the teachers and he's using them with a lie to try to win an election. And so that is unacceptable. It's one thing to have an opinion about my policies or, different things like that, but this is a flat out lie. And I corrected him on it. And the organization who made a post, they did not ask for the elimination of property tax. They were asking basically a question whether or not teachers would like to have a 401k instead of the teacher retirement system. It's a wonderful organization, Texas Education 911. It's a bunch of volunteer parents, grandparents, and citizens who advocate at the Capitol for improvements in public education. And they were just starting a conversation, and he says that I'm still associated with that organization. The last time I made decisions for them or was part of the organization, including social media, was 2023. I corrected the record. Texas Education 911 corrected the record, and he deleted and hid their comments and blocked them from commenting on his post. And so he's running forward with a lie, and people need to be able to make a good decision. And teachers are being all stirred up into thinking that I want to get rid of their teacher retirement fund. And I do not. I have no desire to do that. And so that's the reason, because he is impacting the election. There are comments that are underneath that post and other places. Well, I can't vote for her if that's what she believes. And he's desperate. I think he knows I'm winning, and he's doing everything he can to try to deceive the voters so that he can keep office. And, he has a reputation of being a bully, and I don't back down to bullies. I stand up to bullies, and I've never sued anybody before. But if there is a time to do it, it is now, because this is unacceptable. And I need the teachers to 100% understand that I have their back, and I would never, ever, ever touch their retirement. And if anything, if they told me it needed improvement, I would be the first one to jump up and help them improve it.
Yeah, on the subject of education, if you're elected in House District 7 here, what would you focus on moving forward with East Texas schools and some improvements that need to be made?
Yeah, so I've been meeting with teachers, superintendents, school board members over the last 8 months, just trying to get a feel of how they see education. I have a background on the outside looking in and as a parent, and so I have some thoughts about it, but ultimately it matters what they say. And so I've been gathering information, and when I was diving into the budget, I noticed that we spend $40 billion a year on the Texas Education Agency, the TEA is what's also called, and over the last, 50 years, the state agency just keeps adding requirements and directing education, and our children are not getting smarter. Matter of fact, it's been moving in the wrong direction. And so when I saw that, I thought, well, we're actually getting a negative return on our $40 billion, and our teachers are no longer happy. And so I started asking the question, what would happen if the TA was gone? And my intent was that they would maybe say one, two, or three things that were just so important, and that maybe I could have legislation to pare it down. But ultimately, the answer they gave me was nothing. There is nothing the TEA does that adds value. And so I pivoted a little bit. And my plan right now, on the very first day I can file a bill, is that I will file a bill for an experiment to let our district, our area, do an experiment and unenroll from the TEA. And that would mean none of their requirements would be anything other than optional. And what would happen is then our community, our teachers, and our parents would have the opportunity to actually do education the way it should be done, which is based on the local control, and get back to truly improving our classrooms. And there's no doubt in my mind it'll work. Matter of fact, when I mention it to teachers, superintendents, they light up. Like, they're so excited for the idea that they might not have to follow something the TEA is doing, because they know the TEA directing education is a problem. And I've gotten incredible feedback on that. So that'd be one example.
And in some other interviews you recently did, you also talked about tackling property taxes in the future if you're elected. Tell me your vision on that. I know that's a really big topic here in Texas right now.
It is. It's a really big topic. So I have a business background. And so what I started doing was looking at the budget at the state level, because I was watching as they just continue to spend more and more and more money on things that are not primary functions of government. And so I was looking for, is there money there? And if you look at the budget just for the state, over the last 4 years, the state budget has increased by $90 billion. And the amount of property tax that has been collected by the local entities, which is where property tax is levied, is approximately $90 billion. And so if you look at just that increase could cover 1 year of property tax. And so that tells me the money exists, but it exists in the wrong place. It exists at the state level. And so we need to give a higher percentage of the sales tax that the state receives to the local entities. And in addition to that, all levels of government need to cut back, and they need to trim their budget. Just like you and I probably, I guess I shouldn't speak for you. I operate on a budget in our household. We just can't spend what we want. We have to make tough decisions. Our government should be doing that as well, instead of what they do right now, which is they take everything they want and they give us the leftovers. And that's just unacceptable. And then in addition to adjusting how much of the sales tax goes locally, I would also replace it with what I would call a safety tax. And it would be based on the size of your home and your land, not the value. So you would have confidence as to what that payment would be, and it would only fund safety. So police and fire, and make sure they're properly funded. And I've gotten really good feedback on that as well, because if they need more money, if they need a new fire engine or something like that, it's a lot easier for the citizens to say, yes, I want you to have that fire engine, versus just tell the city, yeah, increase my taxes and I'm going to pray it goes to the firehouse. And so those at a high level, those are the three things: cut budget, adjust sales tax, and replace it with a safety tax.
And then some other issues you're running on. What are some of those maybe underrated issues that you're passionate about right now, especially in House District 7?
Yeah, so I'm passionate about what matters to the people of House District 7. And before I made the decision to run, I actually didn't understand the magnitude of the problem that East Texans, especially outside of the city, are dealing with related to water and their land. For over 50 years, the Texas Water Development Board, and specifically the water planners in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, have had in their forward plan to come in and build a reservoir, displace 66,000 acres of private land, so that they can then pump that water over to Dallas. Dallas is terrible when it comes to managing their water. They use 50% more water per person per day than the rest of the state. And sure, they're growing significantly, but they could grow 50% and not need water from anywhere else if they would just properly conserve. And so I am very, very passionate about the fact that we live in a free country, and the government or a corporation has no business kicking private people off of their land to fund growth of any kind, because that is not a primary function of government. Matter of fact, the government has really let all the people of East Texas down, because their primary function, which they have forgotten, is to protect the rights of its citizens, which means the government should be standing between the people of East Texas and anyone who wants to come after their land and say, no, hands off, you go elsewhere, you manage your own growth. And they're not doing it. And that's what I will do. We need to modify eminent domain. I have two ideas on that. It needs to go from public use to public necessity. It also needs to be where you can only do eminent domain in your jurisdiction. So right now, Dallas thinks they're going to come over here to East Texas and kick people off their land. That's not their region. That's not where they're at. So that would become illegal. They can only do eminent domain in their immediate area. Just like Longview shouldn't be able to go out to Jefferson and do eminent domain. We also need to get rid of NDAs. We have government officials that have been elected and employees that are signing NDAs, and it's keeping them from communicating with the people that they represent, and that can't happen. So we need a bill that will stop that from happening. And then we also need to make sure that we don't have large scale exports out of the area for profit. And so those are four bills that I will file on the first day to protect our water, our land, which is ultimately the liberty of the people of East Texas.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was one of my questions I was following up on. So I appreciate you getting to that. Of course, the economy is also around the United States is a major talking point. Keeping East Texas affordable is very on a lot of East Texas's minds. What can you say to them to make sure that they're confident in you for what you would do in Austin to make sure East Texas stays affordable for the near future?
Right. Well, we have to do some massive cutting of government, like we talked about earlier, so that we can return the money that they're spending on property tax, and that would help significantly. Insurance is also very, very high, and the current representative, Jay Dean, he is the chairman of the insurance committee. And if you look over the last week, I posted a video about some things going on with local pharmacies and why local pharmacies are closing. And ultimately, Jay Dean has had the power to help them and has let bills that would help them die and let bills that help national large corporations like CVS rather than the people of House District 7. And so there are so many things we can do to decrease the price of insurance. And the biggest thing is we need significantly more competition, and we need to break up the monopoly that exists in healthcare. Basically, like a company like CVS, for example, they own the health insurance, they own the company that determines the pharmacy prices, and they own the pharmacies. And that's unacceptable. That's a monopoly. And our antitrust laws should actually be tearing that up. And if not, I'll file a bill. I believe it was Arkansas and Louisiana have actually filed some good bills to help in this area that would say you can't own all of those companies, that has to be split up. So we need to increase competition, decrease regulations as it relates to insurance. And, whether it's home insurance or like your auto insurance, we're all suffering. Like, even if you don't have an accident or a claim, your insurance goes up 20%, or we're going to cancel you. And that's just wrong. And the more competition you have, I do believe in the free market. The more competition you have, the better it's going to be for all of East Texas.
And then Governor Greg Abbott's going to be making a stop in Longview on Wednesday, campaign with your opponent. That visit could boost him in this race, depending on how that event goes. What are you going to do to maybe take some momentum away from your opponent with that visit coming up by the governor?
That's interesting. So I announced my campaign back in June, and I specifically did that because we knew that I needed to build momentum and I needed to increase name recognition significantly. And the great thing is we have a significant amount of momentum. I don't want to discount the visit at all. It's obviously an important visit, but I'm putting my head down and I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing, which is meeting every single person I possibly can, answering every question, being as transparent as possible so people know who they're actually voting for. And as a result of that, I don't think it's going to change anything. I'm very committed to making sure that everybody who needs to know knows who I am and what my integrity is and how I'll represent them in Austin. And people are tired of being forgotten. They're tired of the same old stories. They want new blood. They want new people with new ideas, and that's definitely me.
Yeah. Finally, Melissa, do you think is going to decide this race in the end? And talk about your chances to win.
Oh gosh. Oh, so chances to win, and I'm sorry. The other question was, what was the first part?
What do you think is going to decide this race? The issues that are going to decide this in the end come March 3rd, and yeah, just talk about your chances to win. What are you seeing from voters out there, and anything along those lines that gives you confidence? Hey, I have a chance to win this race.
Yeah, I think I have way more than a chance to win. I think that's part of the reason Jay's pulling out all the stops and lying and continuing to lie even after he's corrected is because he's scared. Because if you talk to the voters, they're ready for change, and they understand that I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I've been listening for 8 months, and I've been making suggestions on policy based on what's going on in their lives. And my intent is to go down to Austin and amplify their voice, which is not happening right now. I am not intending to go down and compromise. I'm intending to make sure their voice is loud and it can be heard. And if you meet me, I think people realize that I am a person of my word, and I do have integrity. So when I shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and say, I am going to represent you, they know that I mean it. And I'm going to measure my success based on how people see me when they see me at the grocery store when I'm back home, because I want them to run up to me and give me a big old hug and say, my life is better because I sent you to Austin. My goal 100% make their lives better by making government smaller and increasing their freedoms again. And that isn't just a tagline. I really mean it. I want to protect people's families, protect their wallets, and they know that that hasn't been happening. And so I think my chances are actually really great. But I'll tell you what, I am working like I'm 100 yards behind.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Melissa, before I let you go on your campaign right now, just ahead of the March primaries?
No, I think that probably covers the most important things that the people around East Texas are talking about. I will say I'm very pro-life. I very much support continuing to keep our borders secure, no matter who the president is in office. And there are lots of other issues that we just never have time to talk about, and they can learn about that on my website, my Facebook page, and I always answer the phone. I always take questions.